You're watching The Sports Objective, the podcast for Pirates. And Pepper.
College football fans, welcome into the show. It's officially week one of the college football season. You know, it can't come fast enough. It's been a long summer. We're all officially ready for football. Week 0 was fun. You know, it was nice to get some games in. Not the greatest slate of games, but nonetheless, it was football. So I'm extremely fired up about week 1, where we have some awesome games to look forward to. And welcome back to Sonny and Semenza for year 2. Let me welcome in my partner of ESPN3, former great Pirate of ECU, Jay Sonnhalter. Jay, what's up, man?
What up, my brother? Well, you're a great Pirate. And hey, listen, I'm so glad it's week 1 because week 0 was a dud for me as far as my picks go. So that was my preseason. My preseason getting ready for week 1, but a lot of good games this week. Last week, not much going on, but there's going to be a lot of good ones this weekend.
Absolutely, Jay. And, you know, like, hey, everybody else gets a preseason game, a tune-up week. Why can't we?
I mean, who the heck knows what's going to happen? Ohio or New Mexico State or any of these teams. Now we got some real teams that are playing Saturday, so I can't wait.
Absolutely. I mean, those were some, and we talked about this before the show last week. Those were some really tough games to pick. A lot of off the radar teams that we don't normally, you know, talk about on this show.
I didn't even know some of those teams had football teams.
Yeah, hopefully we don't talk about them again for the rest of the year.
I'm very proud of our 3-for-4 record, 3-4. So we almost broke even, but we'll be better this week.
Yeah. I hope so, Jay. And, you know, Jay, for me, when I look at week 0, I think, you know, I think the biggest game that was on everybody's mind that everybody was looking forward to was Notre Dame Navy. And, you know, if you watch that game, you have to come away impressed with how Notre Dame looked in week 0. And conversely, you know, Navy did not look good, Jay. They looked awful, in my opinion. You know, obviously some changes with that coaching staff. They're always a team that gets ready or gets better as the season goes along, but they looked very bad, in my opinion. What do you think?
Well, I think they are going to get better as this year goes on. I think Notre Dame is even better than we could have predicted. I mean, I think they're a legit – I know they ranked 13th. I think they're a top 10 team that's going to have a chance at the playoff. And I know you were high on them in the They're a different team with Hartman in there as quarterback. So I think Navy's gonna come on here, you know, as the season goes on, but I think Notre Dame's the real deal.
Yeah, no doubt. I'll tell you, the other team that really surprised me, Jay, was UMass. You know, they looked much improved. They really took it to New Mexico State and on the road. That was my lock of the week. I thought UMass was going to lose that game. They were a 6.5-point dog. They went down there and took care of business.
Yeah, I was shocked at that. And I mean, on the road, and you know, I mean, that was one where UMass has been bad for a while. So for them to go over there and do that, that was pretty impressive. But I mean, I don't really know too much about UMass, so maybe they're not surprised in that locker room. But on the outside, that was a good win for them.
Absolutely. So, you know, we both finished the week 3-4, as mentioned. I think we're going to continue to improve as the season goes on. That was a tough slate of games. This week, for everybody who's tuning in, we're going to look at 7 games. I think we have some really good games to look at. And what we do is we pick these games against the spread. So, you know, it's not about just picking the winner. It's about picking against the spread. So a little more difficult. And, you know, with that said, Jay, you know, everybody's excited. Let's go ahead and get into it, man. I'm fired up, especially for this game. Now, this game's going to come on Monday night. It's on a neutral field. These two teams opened the season against each other last year in an absolute dogfight. Florida State went on to win 24-23. But here we go. LSU versus Florida State. Okay. And like I said, this is on a neutral site, a neutral field. And we'll get the graphic up there, but it's LSU minus 2.5.
Well, this is a tough one, and I mean, this is a sneaky, big game. I mean, for both programs because both teams are ranked within the top 8. I just think that Florida State is good, but I don't know if they're ready. And last year they won that game when more of the pressure was on LSU and Brian Kelly in his first game, and they won it in New Orleans. But I think LSU can legitimately win the national championship this year. I think they're a step ahead, and I think they're going to be pissed off at last year's result. So I think LSU is going to win this game and cover and win by 2.5 or win by 3 or more.
So a little redemption here, Jay, for LSU.
I think so. I think Jada Daniels really good at quarterback, and I think they're going to be, I think they're going to be on a tear this year, and it's going to start off week 1.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's a really intriguing matchup. I mean, you look at both of these teams; they're both well stocked. I mean, 2 outstanding quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels, and then on Florida State, you have Jordan Travis. So you're going to see really good quarterback play in this game. Both teams return 8 starters on offense, 7 for LSU on defense, and 9 for Florida State on defense. So both teams bring back quarterbacks and some veteran leadership. So you're looking at 2 very solid teams here. Brian Kelly, I think he really did a nice job in year 1 at LSU. They went 10-4. And one of the things when you look at them, they landed 19 transfers in the offseason, Jay. So they hit the portal hard to try to improve that roster. And I agree with you. I think LSU is a step ahead. I just think that, you have 2 very good teams, but I think on both lines, I think up front on the offensive line and especially defensive line, LSU's got some dogs. And, I think they're going to be just a little step ahead. And I think they'll cover the 2.5, Jay.
So same page here. I think it's going to be a great game, though. So I can't wait to watch this one.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one to watch. We have to wait till Monday night. But, I do love, Jay, how it's set up this weekend where, the games start on Thursday, Friday, and then it rolls all the way through Saturday into Monday. So it's kind of like 5 straight days of college football. So you can't beat that, right?
Yeah, that's amazing. We've had like 7 months off, so I can't wait for there to be games every day. Thank goodness.
Thank God. So looking at the next one, we have Penn State versus West Virginia. This game is in Happy Valley. Penn State by 20. Jay, I'll jump on this one first. Penn State, I'll tell you, I did some research on them. Very, very impressed with their football team. They have a chance, if when you look at them throughout the entire season, if they're able to beat one of Ohio State or Michigan, if they're able to win one of those games, they have a chance outside looking in to make the college football playoff. They are loaded with talent. They were 11-2 last year. They returned 16 starters. They have a freshman quarterback, Drew Alar. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. If people aren't familiar with him, he was a 5-star recruit. He was the number 1 quarterback recruit in the country a few years ago and the number 3 overall recruit. So this is a big time talent. 6'5", 240 pounds. Penn State's got some road graders up front. I really like this team. If they get quarterback play from Drew Alar, like really solid quarterback play, even though he's young, but if he lives up to expectations, this is going to be a team to watch out for. So I'm bullish on Penn State. You have West Virginia coming in, Jay. It's Neil Brown's his 4th or 5th year. They returned 13 starters. They were only 5-7 last year. So, I think Penn State's going to be a little too much for them, especially at home. You're going to have a fired up crowd. I'm going Penn State minus the 20.
I think everything you just said about Penn State is real. I think they have a great chance to beat Ohio State or Michigan at some point this year. And they've got a left tackle that's going to be a top 5 pick. You talked about the quarterback talent is there if he can, start off strong and not make mistakes throughout the year. He's got the talent. So I think Penn State is another team like LSU that's kind of laying under the radar, but they've got a real chance to make the playoff. I think in this game, though, I'm going to go with West Virginia to cover, and I just think West Virginia has talent. There's a lot to prove, and Penn State's got a freshman quarterback, and it's a night game, and Penn State's so tough to beat at night at home in Happy Valley. But I think that's a big spread, and I think West Virginia's got enough talent to score some points, and I think they're going to cover.
I'm going to do a Lee Corso, Jay. Nice pick. Very nice pick. I can't argue with you at all, man. I really can't. That's one of those games that's a 20 is a lot. It's like it could go either way when you look at it. So I think that's a good pick on your part. For me, it was just kind of a 50-50 thing and going with the home team. So good job on that one. So next, very, very interesting game, Jay. The rematch of last year. We have the Florida Gators, year 2 of Billy Napier, heading out west to take on the Utah Utes. Jay, it's Utah -6.5 at home. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, boy, this is a tough one. I mean, Utah is so good, and so is Florida, but Utah is ranked 14th, and they're good at home. And I think Florida is a team that, last year wasn't their year, but year 2 under Billy Napier with a great recruiting class coming in, they should be a lot better. That's a lot of points, though. But I think Utah is going to be able to cover this. I think Utah is going to win at home. I think it's good. That's a tough matchup for Florida on the road with a new quarterback, Graham Mertz. But I think Utah can do this, and I think they'll cover.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, I think for me, when I look at Utah, my biggest question is Cam Rising. He tore his ACL in the bowl game. And here we are. What? I mean, is it even 8 months later? And now he's going to start a college football game. It's amazing what these surgeons are able to do with ACLs now. I mean, you have guys coming back in 6, 7, 8 months. It's unbelievable. So, I think the question for me when I look at this game is how healthy is Cam Rising? Is he at 90%? Is he at 80%? We just won't know until we watch this game. But, I think, he's going to be good enough, especially at home. This team returns 16 starters, Jay. And if I had a chance to read through Phil Steele's magazine, and, I trust his judgment with this stuff. And Phil Steele has their O-line. Now listen to this. How about this? Their O-line, D-line, linebackers, and DBs ranked number 1 in the Pac-12. So this is a team that has a lot of talent. They have quarterback, they have starters back, and they're at home against a Florida team in transition with a new quarterback who I'm not in love with. I'm going to go Utah to get it done, -6.5.
Great pick.
So we're both in agreement, buddy. We're both in agreement. Although my wife might divorce me because she's a Florida Gator, so she's not going to be too happy with that.
You'll be fine. Just don't tell her.
Yeah, unless she listens to the show, she won't know. So it's all good. So looking forward a little bit here, Jay, to the next one. We have another. I always enjoy this matchup. So UNC versus South Carolina. I believe it's in Charlotte on a neutral field, and it's North Carolina -2.5. Jay, what do you think of this one?
Well, I'll tell you, it's going to be a close game. I know that. It's down at the Panther Stadium in Charlotte. Great crowd there, and easy for both schools to get there. I'm really excited to watch Spencer Rattler and Drake May in this one. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I'll tell you what, I'm not sure who's going to win, but I think South Carolina can cover that. I'm going to go with the Gamecocks, but I think it's going to be an exciting game that goes back and forth, and it's going to be one of the best games of the day. I just think a South Carolina team, they weren't great on defense last year, but neither was UNC on defense. But I think South Carolina will find a way to either win the game or at least cover. So I'm going to go Gamecocks to cover.
Yeah, I think that's a really good pick. This is a tough one. This is a really tough one. I feel like no team does less with their talent than North Carolina. And you look at Mac Brown, in this stint, he's in his 5th year now, which is hard to believe. Back at North Carolina, his record is 30-22. So he's not exactly, shocking the world, with this comeback. And I do think that they're underachieving a little bit. They were bad down the stretch. If you look to last year, they lost to Georgia Tech, NC State, and Clemson coming down the stretch. So they struggled a little bit. By all accounts, Drake May is the top quarterback prospect in the draft, according to a lot of, the experts. So you're going to get, when you look at this game, you're going to get good quarterback play. Spencer Rattler and Drake May. I think you'll see some points here. Conversely, I really like Shane Beamer as a coach, Jay. I think this team plays hard for him. I think he's the type of guy, he's a player's coach. Like when I look at videos and the things he's doing with that program, I would want to play for him. I think he brings a lot of excitement. There's some renewed enthusiasm in that program. They did lose a lot on defense. They only returned 4 starters. But they played well down the stretch last year against some big teams. If you remember, Jay, you remember when they smoked Tennessee? They hung like 60 on them.
Yeah. I mean, they've got a lot of fight to them. I'm a big believer in South Carolina, what Shane Beamer's doing down there. I mean, the thing is, North Carolina has Drake May, and he's the difference maker. But I just think Spencer Rattler's good. I think South Carolina has kind of a special chemistry down there. That's why I think they're going to cover. But, I mean, this is a tough one to pick because I do think Drake May is that special at quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. It's tough. I'm still struggling with it, but I am going to go North Carolina -2.5. I think it could go either way. Probably will come down to a field goal. But because of Drake May, I think he's a really good quarterback, and I think that they'll find a way to win just by a few, just by enough to cover that spread. So we'll disagree on this one. I'll take the Tar Heels, which I always hate to do, Jay. All right. All right. Next one up here. What do we have next here, boys? What do we have next? All right. We have University of Texas San Antonio at Houston, and it's UTSA -1.5. It seems like every time these two teams play, it's a barn burner, like two evenly matched teams. What do you think about this one, Jay?
Boy, I'll tell you, this is going to be a good one. This is a nice game out in Texas between those two schools that I'm glad they're playing, and I think that's a good Week 1 matchup. I think UTSA is a really good team, and I think Houston is a team that's up and down with Dana Holgorsen and Jeff Traylor out there. UTSA ever since he got there, they've been solid and they won a ton of games. It's at Houston though, and anytime you're on the road, that's going to be tough. But I'm going to go with the Roadrunners on this one. I think they're going to be able to cover, and 1.5, isn't much. You kind of think, Houston should be able to do it at home, but I'm going to go with UTSA to cover.
I like it, and our producer Bubba Rosenbaum mentioned in the comments that Houston did survive last year at the Alamo Dome, and it really was an instant classic. I mean, that was a great game, and could have went either way. But I'm with you on this, Jay. I like UTSA in Houston. It's a pretty loaded team. I want to say they have 9 starters back on each side of the ball. The quarterback is back, so they have continuity. Really solid team. And then you look at Houston, they lost their longtime quarterback, lost some stud wide receivers. I think they're only returning like 4 starters on offense. So I think Houston in some ways reminds me a little bit of ECU in terms of they had some longtime studs offensively that have now moved on to the next level or graduated. And they do have talent, but the question is, how long does it take for that talent to come together? So I don't think they'll be, ready to put it all together in week one. So I'm going to take UTSA, and I actually think this spread is a little light. I think UTSA will cover this by a touchdown or more.
Yeah, they're a great program. I mean, all they do is win, and again, I've just been impressed by what they've been able to do out there, Jeff Taylor, and that program just seems to win close games. Even though Houston won last year, I think it's going to be another close game.
Yeah, I mean, how about the fact that they come now into the American Conference, Jay, and they're picked to win the conference? I mean, their first year, if you look at all and listen, I mean, you and I both know preseason publications, they can be hit or miss and not always accurate, but it's pretty impressive. It also bothers me a little bit that they can come into the American and be picked to win the conference. So that's something to watch out for. What are your thoughts on that, Jay? Do you think they're a team that would you put them in the lead right now to win the conference?
Well, I mean, based off of their track record, I would, but that does say something to the American. There should be teams that should be ahead of them preseason wise. But I mean, I think this year it's going to be a year of transition with these new teams coming in, and I wouldn't be surprised if that preseason poll isn't anywhere close to being accurate, because I think some of the teams that are picked down at the bottom are going to be a lot better. And then some of the teams at the top, I think there's going to be shuffling. So just like in any league, I think, it's not going to be accurate, but I think the American is truly wide open.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And,
I mean, I would personally go with Tulane. I know they lost a lot, but they've got their quarterback back, but that's where I would start.
Jay, that's a great segue, because that's the next game we're about to go into here. And it is Tulane against South Alabama. This is an 8 p.m. game on ESPNU. It's Tulane -6.5. And I'll jump in on this one first. I actually, this might surprise you. I think this is going to be a great game. I think this is going to be a game that comes down to, deep in the fourth quarter. You look at South Alabama, and, if you didn't read, like, the average fan out there just thinks, all right, South Alabama, how good can they possibly be? But if you take a deeper dive, this is a team that returns 18 starters and their quarterback. I want to say they were 10-3 last year off the top of my head. I could be wrong about that, but they had a very good record. I think they match up pretty well with Tulane from a talent perspective. Michael Pratt, obviously, outstanding quarterback. Tulane coming off the huge bowl win, really solid team. In no way is this a disrespect towards Tulane, but I think South Alabama is a very good team, and I think they're going to cover the spread. So I have, this might be my surprise pick of the week, but I think South Alabama plus 6.5 can get it done.
I agree with you. I think they've got a ton of guys back, and I think too also, this isn't a huge thing, but it is a thing. Anytime you have a huge victory in the bowl game, sometimes, of course, Tulane will be motivated going into week one, but sometimes there is a little bit of a hangover in that, and I think South Alabama will be motivated. They're going to be on alert because they watched the film of Tulane against USC, and I think Tulane's going to win, but I just think the South Alabama is going to be able to cover that. So I agree with you.
We're agreeing a lot this week, man. We're agreeing a lot. So we need to make up for last week a little bit and have a winning record. So hopefully that happens, buddy. So there's one more game we're gonna take a look at, and that's the East Carolina versus Michigan game. But before we do, Jay, let's take a look at, out of all these, the first, 7 games we picked. Let's take a look at our lock of the week. So again, tough games, Jay, but do you have a lock? I think
I don't feel that confident in any of these. So if you want me to be honest, no, I don't have a lock. But I'll do this. I'll go big on this one. I'll say I'm really confident in LSU. I think LSU is gonna cover. So that'll be my lock.
Wow, man. We're agree. Oh, that's my lock too. So I'll say maybe I'm stubborn because last year, same situation, Jay. It was the first week of the season, and LSU was my lock to beat Florida State, and they lost that game. And I guess I'm stubborn because I'm going back for more, but I think this is a redemption game. I think they're better. Year two for Brian Kelly, and it is a neutral field, but I think they're going to find a way to get it done, man. So that's both of our lock. LSU Tigers, buddy.
It is. I don't know if I can believe in Florida State yet, and also with LSU, I think Brian Kelly's a really good coach, and I think last year showed how good he was being able to win 10 games with that team, and I think they're going to be even better this year. Plus, they're going to have motivation from last year.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That's a very good point. So those are our main games, Jay. Now, obviously, let's take a look here locally. We have our Pirates, heading up to the Big House to play the number 2 team in the country, Michigan. The spread is 36. Now, we don't even have to necessarily pick the spread on this one if you don't want to, but let's just talk a little bit about the game in general. Just break it down. Michigan, obviously, Jim Harbaugh suspended for this game, as well as the defensive coordinator and some other staff members. First, Jay, let me ask you this question. Do you think that will have any impact on this game?
I think it could. I think Michigan's going to be motivated and use the NCAA as motivation for what they did to their coach, because I think it's ridiculous that they're getting in trouble for this. But I'll say this. You want to have consistency. You want to have that voice. And they're not going to have that leader for 3 weeks. Now, the ECU game's only 1 week, but I do think there's going to be an effect. Michigan would much rather have Jim Harbaugh there than Jesse Minter being the coach. And they're going to try to make this out to be a positive and the best they can with it. But, they'd rather have Harbaugh there. I just think this game for the Pirates, they're going to have to be stout on the offense and defensive line. If they can manage the line play, then it's going to give an opportunity for Mason Garcia and the skill players on offense and on defense, force Michigan into passing situations. But if you can't stop the run or you can't stop the pass rush, it's going to be a long day for any team. And Michigan's really good on their line. So the Pirates, that's going to be the areas that I'm really looking forward to watching, is the offense and defensive line.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And let's face it, Michigan they're loaded with 4- and 5-star guys on both sides of the ball. I think, when I look at East Carolina this year, there's just so many unknowns. And I think this is a team that it's hard to know where you're at right now with, first of all, let's start with quarterback, Mason Garcia. Very talented guy, very talented. We've all heard about the rocket arm, big kid. He's been in the system, but not a lot of experience. So the question is, how long will it take Mason to be comfortable on Saturdays? It's one thing to do it in practice, but how long does it take until you're comfortable on Saturdays? And then you have so many new faces on the offensive line and at wide receiver that I just can't pick the Pirates to win this game. I just can't do it. I do think defensively ECU will be better. I think they've added some speed at linebacker and at DB. I really like the defensive line a lot. I think that's the strength of this football team. And I think they'll be able to rotate a lot of guys. So I think defensively, we probably will play better than most people think. The question is, I agree with you. Can we score points, and can we keep it competitive and within striking distance, to give yourself a chance in the fourth quarter? So, I know that the easy thing to do would be for us to say, oh, East Carolina is going to go win this game. They're not going to win this game, in my opinion. Stranger things have happened, but what you really want to do, and this is my hope, Jay, is that you go up to Michigan, you play well on both sides of the ball, you compete, you show that you prove that you belong on the field with the number 2 team in the country, and then you kind of get that experience, that game day experience, heading into week 2 against Marshall. So that's really kind of where my head is at when I look at this one.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think the biggest thing is the Pirates have to go up there and maintain confidence and composure early on in the ball game. And this is going to be a great atmosphere. And I'll tell you, as a player, as a coach, you want to be playing against the best in that type of stadium with that environment, that crowd. So I know the players are excited for this, for this opportunity. I just think it's along with the players, the coaches, everybody there, there's a certain recipe that the Pirates have to play with. And, I talked about the line play, but the Pirates are going to have to run the ball, shorten this game up. And on defense, going to have to get turnovers. Special teams, you have to be solid. And then on offense, run the ball and limit the passing opportunities. Because if we go out there and have to throw it 40 or 50 times, it's probably not going to be good for any quarterback, especially not a new one. But if we can run the ball, shorten the game up, stop Michigan when they run, and again, just make this more of a shortened game, that's going to give us the best opportunity to win. So I just can't wait to see it. I know there's a lot of new guys on the team and a lot of guys the coaching staff's really positive about. We just haven't seen them or heard about them yet. But this is going to be their opportunity. And, another thing is for everybody that wants to play in the NFL for ECU, this is the game tape that scouts are going to watch when you're playing the best. So if you have a big game in this one, you're going to get a lot of notice, and the scouts are going to be watching this game tape to see what you can do. So it's a great opportunity. I just can't wait for Saturday.
It really is, and you make a lot of good points. And I think, Mike Houston, the way he's going to manage this game, I think, he might be a little more conservative offensively, to your point. He's going to try to establish the running game. But I think with Mason, really any first-time starter at quarterback, well, it's actually his second start to be official. He started against Navy 2 years ago. But I like the idea of simplicity on offense, a lot of high percentage throws where, it's one read, maybe you check off or you check down to your second option, but high percentage throws where you can get his confidence high, Jay, but also keep the clock moving. I think you got to be really mindful of the clock in this game, even early on, in the first half. I think you want to keep your eye on the clock and try to move the ball, move the chains, get first downs. And then defensively, the big thing is, they're going to try to pound you. You don't want to give up big plays over the top. So make them go the length of the field. And, we'll probably see, a few death marches in this game, I have a feeling, where Michigan and they do it against everybody, where they just line up 2 tight ends, they pound the rock 4, 5, 6, 7 yards a carry, and they move the chains that way. But I'd rather see that than big plays over the top where we just get gashed. So, I agree. Hey, thank God, Jay, that college football is finally here, right?
Yeah, this is the best time of year, and a lot of games this Saturday, and then week 2 there's going to be NFL on Sunday. So a lot of opportunity to catch up on all our football. So I can't wait.
Absolutely, buddy. Well, great job this week. That's going to be, a wrap for week 1. Looking forward to watching some ball. Pirate fans, please follow us on YouTube. Please like and subscribe our YouTube page. You can follow us on Facebook. The Pirates Cove is our group. You can follow us on Twitter, or X, as some people call it. It's going to take me a few years to get used to that. But you can follow us wherever podcasts can be found. So appreciate all your support. Looking forward to the games this weekend. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And Jay, you have a great night, my friend. Take care.
Thanks, buddy. Good job this week. Look forward to next week.
All right, my man.